If someone's starting to feel that there's some issues going on emotionally with them, it's natural to be concerned and perhaps to even be worried. So getting good sources of information is important. I would start by talking with someone that you really trust. So a parent, a teacher, a friend that you know you can count on, your family doctor or pediatrician. And guidance counselors are a great resource for kids who are in high school. Letting a guidance counselor in particular know what you've been feeling and what seems to have been going on with you is a really good place to start, because that person should be able to point you in the right direction. You know, I would add that the internet can be a great source of information. I think that many people go there first when they have questions about virtually anything. I would caution folks to be discerning and careful about the type of information they're getting from the internet. So that may be a place to start, but I think that always following up with particularly an adult who would be in a position to help would be even more important. If you have a friend who you think is experiencing depression, anxiety, any form of mental illness, the most important thing to remember is that your role is to just listen, to simply listen and be there as a support for that person. It's not to fix things for them. It's not really to be their therapist, but it is to be there as a support for someone who may be going through some mental health concerns. At the same time, I think that there is a very natural instinct that many of us have to want to jump in and fix our friends when we think that there's something wrong. So it's important to resist the urge to offer solutions, to talk about a time that you felt that way and what you did about it. Any of those types of conversations will end up taking the focus off of your friend and putting it onto yourself. And this is a time when you really want to let your friend know that you hear them and that you're there for them. It's hard to know what's the right thing to do when you want to open up what might be a sensitive topic with a friend. So one of the effective ways to do that is by simply stating to them what it is that you've noticed or what you're concerned about. You want to pick a time and place that will be private so that there aren't others around to overhear your conversation. And you want to make sure that you have enough time to really give it your full attention. So I would suggest having this conversation in person rather than by text or any other sort of social media ways of communicating. And you can simply start by saying, hey, I've noticed that lately you seem to be fill in the blank. So I've noticed that you seem to be more down than you usually are. I've noticed that you just don't seem to be yourself when we're hanging out with our friends. Is there something going on? And then stop and let your friend tell you what's going on. You know, there are a lot of really good resources that are available. I've mentioned already talking with a guidance counselor or with your pediatrician or family doctor. Those are great places to start. They also require making an appointment and showing up. And I mentioned the internet as a great resource, assuming that you've done appropriate sort of checking to make sure that these are reliable sources of information. And there are a few out there that I would recommend that are really great sources. So the first I would say is called teenshealth.org. That website actually has a variety of information about all different aspects of adolescent health concerns, including mental health. There's also a great website called teenmentalhealth.org that includes not only information about mental health concerns, but also just what you've been asking. how do I help a friend who may be going through something? So those are two great websites that have reliable evidence-based information that are particularly aimed at teens. A couple others that I would recommend are websites that are for the National Institute of Mental Health, and then the other is one for the National Alliance for Mental Illness, and those both are great resources about a variety of different mental health issues. The thing that led me to be a psychologist initially really was a strong interest in children and helping children. So I began my career as a school psychologist, which meant that I was working full-time 100% in the public school system, working with kids from preschool through high school. And I did that for several years, and then I decided that I wanted to be able to expand the type of people that I was working with and the type of work that I was able to do. And so I went back to school, retrained, and got my doctorate in clinical psychology. And what I've learned over that time, both in terms of deciding on a career path for myself and then looking at what I see others do who are psychologists, particularly psychologists who work as therapists, is that we tend in general to have a real passion for working with individuals who are struggling, and being able to be there to support them, hopefully to help them to find a solution and a way through the issues that they're dealing with, and to just be able to be present and to sit with and just witness what other people's lives are like. So I think a real curiosity about people, sort of wanting to know what makes people tick, recognizing that there are many different paths to a solution and a way out of problems that people are having, are some of the key aspects of what it takes to be a therapist and to have a successful practice as a therapist. For me, one of the things that kind of keeps me going and helps me enjoy this job is really this idea of hope. So being with people who, despite many things that have happened to them in their lives, sometimes against great odds, they're coming back, right? They're coming back to therapy every week, and they're really wanting to work on the things that they're dealing with. And so for me, one of the most important things about my job is that if at the end of a session, a person can walk out of a room with just a tiny bit of hope, just a tiny bit of feeling that things can be different for them, and knowing that I can be there to help support them through that, is just a really encouraging part of my job, and it makes it a privilege to sit with people and witness them going through that themselves.